making chicken and dumplings for lunch.
Chess pie. It's been around for a couple of 100 years.
Make Watergate salad. This is a recipe that was given to me years ago.
Ever wonder what happened to the comforting dishes your grandma used to make? Imagine savoring the creamy sweetness of potato candy or the rich, savory tradition of head cheese. These cherished recipes, once a staple, are now fading into history. Will we let them disappear forever? Join us as we rediscover 20 forgotten foods your grandma always cooked for you.
It's the holidays and it's time to make some candy. I'm going to show you one of our favorites, which is old-fashioned potato candy.
Potato candy was a charming and unique treat that many grandmas used to make. It originated in the Appalachian region during the Great Depression when ingredients were hard to come by and people had to be inventive with what they had. The candy was made by mixing mashed potatoes with powdered sugar to create a dough-like mixture. The dough was then spread with peanut butter, rolled into a log, and sliced into bite-sized pieces. The history of potato candy is quite interesting. European immigrants, especially those from Germany and Ireland, brought it to the United States. Despite its name, the candy didn't taste like potatoes. Instead, it was sweetened with powdered sugar and enriched with peanut butter. From sweet treats to savory delights, how did people use every part of the pig to create unique dishes? Let's explore head cheese next.
So I'm going to start making traditional dishes for this holiday. First of all, I'm going to make head cheese, which is a traditional dish for Christmas in East Europe.
Head cheese, or brawn, was a traditional meat jelly set in aspic from a pig's head. Originating from medieval Europe, it was a practical way to use every part of the animal and reduce waste. The head, including the cheeks, snout, and sometimes the tongue, was simmered with spices and herbs until tender. After cooking, the meat was deboned, chopped, and mixed with the gelatinous cooking liquid from the head. A pig's head, onions, garlic, bay leaves, and peppercorns were needed to prepare head cheese. The head was cleaned, quartered, and boiled with the spices until the meat fell off the bone. It was then finally chopped with some broth and poured into a mold to set. Once chilled, it was sliced thinly and typically served on crackers or bread, offering a taste of history.
Now, chess pie, we think, originated somewhere in Britain. This is a very plain filling, but it's so good.
Chess pie was a beloved southern dessert with a history stretching back to 17th century England. It gained popularity in the southern U.S. during the 1800s. This classic pie was made from basic ingredients: eggs, sugar, butter, and a hint of vinegar or lemon juice, which added a slight tang and balanced the sweetness. Cornmeal or flour was often mixed to thicken the filling, creating a custard-like texture. To make chess pie, begin with a prepared pie crust. The filling was made by creaming butter and sugar together, then adding beaten eggs, a splash of vinegar or lemon juice, and cornmeal or flour. The mixture was poured into the pie crust and baked until firm. The final result was a sweet, slightly tangy pie with a smooth, creamy consistency that delighted many.
I'm making a sardine salad sandwich, and this was very, very popular during the Great Depression.
Sardine salad sandwiches were once a favorite choice, especially in the early to mid-20th century. This simple yet tasty dish was popular because it was cheap and nutritious. Sardines, full of omega-3 fatty acids, vitamins, and minerals, are common in many kitchens. To make the salad, people mix canned sardines with mayonnaise, mustard, and sometimes chopped pickles for extra flavor. To prepare a sardine salad sandwich, they drained a can of sardines, mashed them with a fork, and added a few tablespoons of mayonnaise, a teaspoon of mustard, and pickles if they wanted. They seasoned it with salt and pepper, spread it on slices of bread, and sometimes added lettuce or tomato for a bit more freshness. These sandwiches were a quick, nutritious meal, ideal for busy families. While not as popular now, they still bring back fond memories for many who enjoyed them in their youth. Sardine salad sandwiches were once a staple, but how did a gelatin-based tomato dish become a fashionable appetizer? Let's explore tomato aspic next.
Tonight we're going to make some tomato aspic, and we're using a 1950s recipe.
Tomato aspic was a popular dish in the U.S. during the early 20th century. This savory, gelatin-based treat, often served chilled as an appetizer boasted a bright red color and a firm, unique texture. It was made by combining tomato juice with gelatin, sometimes including vegetables like celery and onions, or seafood like shrimp for extra flavor. To prepare tomato aspic, gelatin was first dissolved in water. Next, tomato juice was heated with finely chopped onions, celery, lemon juice, Worcestershire sauce, and pepper. Once this mixture simmered, the dissolved gelatin was added and stirred until fully mixed. The mixture was then poured into a mold and chilled until set. When served, tomato aspic was typically placed on a bed of lettuce and topped with a dollop of mayonnaise, making for an elegant and flavorful presentation.
And I'm cooking liver and onions. I'm going to have rice and gravy with it and some green peas.
Liver and onions was a beloved dish that many grandmas used to make. This classic meal featured tender slices of liver, usually beef or pork, cooked with sweet caramelized onions. The liver was seasoned with salt, pepper, and sometimes garlic powder, then coated lightly in flour before frying. The onions were sautéed until golden, giving the dish a rich flavor. Historically, liver and onions were popular across many cultures for their affordability and nutrition, especially in the US, the UK, and Germany. In the US, they became a staple in diners and home kitchens. People sliced the liver and onions, seasoned them, and dredged them in flour to prepare them. They sautéed the onions in butter until caramelized, then removed them. The liver was browned in the same pan, then simmered with onions and beef broth to make a savory gravy served over mashed potatoes or rice.
Make Watergate salad. This is a recipe that was given to me years ago.
Watergate salad was a nostalgic, fluffy dessert that combined pistachio pudding, canned pineapple, mini marshmallows, and whipped topping, often topped with nuts. Known as Pistachio Delight or Green Fluff, it gained popularity in the 1970s. Its name was considered connected to the Watergate scandal, but its origin remained unclear. To make Watergate salad, people used a can of undrained crushed pineapple, a packet of instant pistachio pudding mix, a container of whipped topping, and mini marshmallows. They mixed the pineapple with its juice and the pudding mix until well combined, then folded in the whipped topping and marshmallows. The mixture was chilled for a few hours to blend the flavors. Before serving, chopped nuts like pecans or walnuts were sprinkled on top for extra crunch. This sweet green salad was a hit at potlucks and family gatherings, beloved for its creamy texture and vibrant color. Watergate salad's retro charm made it a potluck favorite, but how does another timeless comfort food, chicken and dumplings, compare? Let's explore its rich history and flavors.
I'm making chicken and dumplings for lunch. I started a few hours ago.
Chicken and dumplings was a comforting dish that combined tender chicken simmered in a flavorful broth with fluffy dumplings that soaked up the savory taste. This classic meal had roots in European and African cooking traditions from the 1600s and became especially popular in the southern United States during the late 19th century. To prepare it, chicken pieces were simmered in a pot with water, onions, carrots, and celery to create a rich broth. Once the chicken was tender, it was removed, shredded, and returned to the pot. For the dumplings, a dough made from flour, baking powder, salt, and milk was dropped by spoonfuls into the simmering broth, cooking until the dumplings were fluffy and done. This dish was particularly popular during the Great Depression as it was a cost-effective way to feed a family.
If you're looking for a different pie this holiday season, this is the one. This is a Pennsylvania Dutch dessert called shoe fly pie.
Shoe fly pie, a cherished dessert from the Pennsylvania Dutch tradition, featured a molasses filling and a crumbly streusel topping. Originating in the late 1800s, it was initially a crustless molasses cake called Centennial Cake, created to mark the 100th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. The pie's name likely came from the need to shoo away flies attracted to the sweet filling as it cooled. A basic pie crust was filled with molasses, brown sugar, and water, thickened with flour and baking soda to make shoe fly pie. The topping, a crumbly blend of flour, sugar, and butter, was sprinkled on top before baking. Popular among the Pennsylvania Dutch for its use of inexpensive ingredients and long shelf life, shoe fly pie was often enjoyed as a breakfast treat with coffee, making it a household favorite.
They would love to know how to make chicken divan. Well, it's probably one of the oldest chicken casseroles in my memory.
Chicken divan was a beloved casserole dish that featured chicken, broccoli, and a creamy Mornay sauce. It was often topped with breadcrumbs or cheese and baked until golden and bubbly. Created in the early 20th century at the Divan Paris restaurant in New York City's Chatham Hotel, it quickly gained popularity for its elegant presentation and delicious taste. To make chicken divan, cook layered chicken and steamed broccoli in a baking dish. Pour a rich Mornay sauce from bechamel sauce and cheese over the top, and sprinkle breadcrumbs or cheese for a crispy finish. Bake the dish at 350 degrees Fahrenheit until the top is golden. By the 1950s, chicken divan had become a staple in American homes. It was celebrated for its creamy, comforting flavors and was often featured at family gatherings and potlucks. Many grandmas loved preparing it, cementing it as a cherished comfort food.
Oh my God, please.
It's wonderful.
Anything but that.
Oh. Yeah.
Jell-O mold with suspended fruit was a beloved dish that became a staple in mid-20th century America. This vibrant dessert featured flavored gelatin, such as strawberry or lime, with pieces of fruit, nuts, or marshmallows floating inside. It gained popularity in the 1950s and 60s when convenience foods were in high demand. Homemakers enjoyed it for its simplicity and striking appearance at family gatherings and potlucks. Gelatin was first dissolved in boiling water and mixed with cold water to prepare this dish. After letting it cool slightly, fruits and other add-ins were stirred in. The mixture was poured into a decorative mold and chilled in the refrigerator for about 4 hours until it set. This easy-to-make dessert quickly became a favorite for its fun and festive look. The Jell-O mold with suspended fruit brought a splash of color and fun to gatherings. How did another dish capture Midwest comfort? Let's explore cornmeal mush and its comforting charm.
Cornmeal mush was a traditional breakfast in Appalachia for generations.
Cornmeal mush was a cherished comfort food with deep roots in American history, dating back to the 17th century. It was a staple for early settlers and enslaved people because it was simple and affordable. This dish, made from cornmeal, water, and salt, offered a versatile and filling meal. To prepare it, water was boiled and cornmeal was whisked in gradually, stirring constantly to prevent lumps. It was cooked until thickened, then poured into a loaf pan to set. Once firm, the mush was sliced and fried in butter until crispy. Cornmeal mush was especially popular in the Midwest as a hearty breakfast, served with syrup for a sweet touch or gravy for a savory option. Its crispy exterior and creamy interior made it a comforting favorite, evoking memories of simpler times and homemade meals.
Gets put into the water, you can see it's boiling, core side down, into the boiling water, cover it up.
Cabbage rolls, a grandma's favorite dish with origins in Jewish cuisine dating back over 2,000 years, became a staple in many cultures. Traditionally, they consisted of ground beef or pork mixed with rice and spices wrapped in cabbage leaves and baked in a rich tomato sauce. This hearty meal was particularly popular in Eastern Europe, where different regions had variations using various meats and seasonings. To make cabbage rolls, you blanch the cabbage leaves to soften them. The filling combines ground meat, cooked rice, finely chopped onions, garlic, salt, and pepper. A spoonful of this mixture is placed on each cabbage leaf, then rolled up and secured. The rolls were arranged in a baking dish, covered with tomato sauce, and baked at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 1.5 hours. Cabbage rolls were a favorite at family gatherings and festive occasions, embodying comfort and tradition.
I'm gonna bake a ham and cheese loaf, a recipe written almost 7 years ago.
Ham and cheese loaf was a savory favorite enjoyed for generations. It originated from European traditions and combined diced ham and cheese and a yeasted dough, making it a hearty snack or a breakfast option. The dish became especially popular in American homes during the mid-20th century, often served warm and fresh from the oven. To make it, people prepared a basic yeasted dough, rolled it out into a rectangle, and spread a generous layer of diced ham and shredded cheese, such as cheddar, mozzarella, or Swiss, over the dough. They then rolled the dough up like a jelly roll, placed it in a greased loaf pan, and let it rise again. After baking for 30 to 35 minutes, the loaf turned golden brown. It was a staple at family gatherings and potlucks, providing a comforting filling option that still evokes nostalgia today.
Let's go make a green tomato apple pie. Now, let's go make a green tomato pie. The crust is extremely flaky.
Green tomato pie was a charming and surprising dessert from the 19th century. This pie became popular in American homes when green tomatoes were more common than apples. The filling was made by slicing unripened green tomatoes and mixing them with sugar, flour, cinnamon, and nutmeg. Some recipes added lemon juice and zest for extra flavor. This mixture was poured into a pie crust and baked until the tomatoes were soft and the crust was golden brown. The pie's history was all about practicality. When apples were hard to find, especially in summer, green tomatoes were an excellent substitute due to their tartness and firmness. It was smart to use up the last tomatoes before the first frost. The result was a dessert that surprisingly tasted like apple pie, but with a unique twist that delighted many over the years. When you think green tomatoes couldn't surprise you more, what about a cake that turned canned pineapple into a sensation? Let's explore pineapple upside-down cake next.
And today, I'm going to make an old-fashioned pineapple upside-down cake.
Pineapple upside-down cake became a beloved dessert in the early 20th century, thanks to the popularity of canned pineapple. The Hawaiian Pineapple Company, now known as Dole, made pineapple widely available in the 1920s. This cake featured a buttery base topped with caramelized pineapple rings and maraschino cherries. It was baked in a single pan and flipped over before serving to showcase its beautiful caramelized topping. Butter and brown sugar were melted in a skillet to make the cake, and pineapple rings and cherries were arranged on top. The batter, made from flour, sugar, baking powder, salt, eggs, milk, and vanilla, was poured over the fruit. The cake was baked until golden brown, creating a delicious treat that was especially popular at family gatherings and potlucks in the 50s and 60s.
Today I want to share a recipe for kumquat preserves.
Kumquat preserves are delightful treats from small tart kumquats preserved in sweet syrup. This dish has a rich history, especially in Asian cuisine, where kumquats are a popular winter fruit. The preserves were often enjoyed over pancakes, waffles, or as a unique condiment for meats, adding a sweet and tangy flavor. Preserving kumquats requires fresh kumquats, sugar, water, and spices like cinnamon and cardamom. The process begins by washing and piercing the kumquats and boiling them briefly to soften the skins. After draining, the kumquats are cooked with sugar, water, and spices until the mixture thickens into a syrup. The preserves are then stored in sterilized jars and can be enjoyed year-round. While they were quite popular in the past, especially among those who enjoyed homemade jams, kumquat preserves are less common today, but remain a cherished memory for many who grew up with them.
Oyster stew is the best you will ever have, elegant and satisfying. He serves it quick and hot with toasted homemade bread.
Oyster stew was a creamy soup made with fresh oysters, milk, butter, and some pepper, offering a delicate salty flavor. It had its roots in Irish-American communities, gaining popularity in the mid-19th century. Irish immigrants adapted their traditional fish stew recipes to include oysters, which were plentiful and affordable in New England. Oyster stew became a holiday favorite, especially on Christmas Eve, because of Catholic fasting traditions. To make it, people sauteed diced onions or shallots in butter until soft, then added the oysters until their edges curled. They poured the reserved oyster liquor and milk into the pot, letting it simmer gently. It was seasoned with pepper and a pinch of paprika or cayenne for added flavor. Oyster stew was a cherished dish, served hot with a dollop of butter on top, especially in the eastern United States.
Today I'm here to share with you one of my favorite dishes. It's an entree. It's beef stroganoff.
Beef stroganoff, a classic dish from 19th century Russia named after the Stroganoff family, became a favorite among the Russian aristocracy. The original recipe used sautéed beef cubes in a mustard and sour cream sauce. Over time, the dish evolved to include onions and mushrooms, enhancing its flavor. Tender beef strips were first browned and set aside to make beef stroganoff. In the same pan, onions and mushrooms were cooked until soft, Flour was added to thicken the sauce, followed by beef broth, mustard, and sour cream. The beef was then returned to the pan and simmered until the sauce became creamy and the meat was tender. Traditionally served over egg noodles, beef stroganoff became a beloved comfort food in the U.S. after World War II. It was cherished for its rich, creamy sauce and tender beef, making it a staple at family dinners and special occasions. Beef stroganoff's creamy richness became a favorite for many. But have you ever wondered how peanuts found their way into Southern cuisine? Let's explore the journey from beef stroganoff to the surprising origins of peanut soup.
I'm doing a soup that is near and dear to my heart. It's called creamy peanut butter soup.
Peanut soup is a creamy and savory dish deeply rooted in Southern and African cuisine. Its origins date back to colonial America, where peanuts were a staple crop. George Washington Carver, known for his work in agricultural science, helped popularize peanuts in their various uses, including in peanut soup. To make it, cook sautéed chopped onions and celery in butter until soft, then stir in flour to create a roux. Chicken broth was added gradually and brought to a boil before being reduced and combined with peanut butter and cream until smooth. After simmering for a few minutes, the soup was garnished with chopped peanuts for added texture. In colonial Virginia, peanut soup became a cherished tavern dish. It was loved for its rich, nutty flavor and creamy texture, often enjoyed with a piece of bread. It remained a nostalgic favorite, evoking memories of home-cooked meals and grandmother's kitchen.